Hello, viewers, and welcome to the latest GI Huddle interview. I'm here with Justin Cosnett from Continent 8. Justin, thanks very much for joining me.
No problem at all.
Looking forward to speaking with you about mainly the gaming exchange, but other kind of industry concepts such as use of data and things like that. To start off with, could you tell us all about your company's gaming exchange and what sets it apart from the competition?
Yeah, so it builds on C8's unique kind of global MPLS network for gaming that we've had, based on our kind of 20 plus years legacy. It's a private internet for gaming, so there's no public internet surface connecting kind of all the regulated environments together. So because of that kind of 20 years legacy, a majority of kind of gaming B2B operators on our network, most of iGaming, as we call it, is on or interacts with the C8 network in some way. So we've created this separate private internet for that.
I mean, you've kind of touched on it there already, but let's say you're talking to someone who doesn't know too much about the product, and you've got to explain to them why would a company use a product like this today. What exactly would you say?
So I suppose as well as kind of enabling that connectivity in a resilient fashion because of that network, it basically means that we can ensure the lowest latency, the quickest connectivity between two customers or two endpoints, effectively. So for those B2B entities or even B2Cs where they interoperate with other customers, either with slots or casino games that are being delivered, either the RNG, the back end, or some kind of wallet interaction, we can guarantee that connection between those two endpoints, whether if they're in a C8 location or even one of many C8 locations. We also give it we also bring with it a kind of premium portal, like an analytics tool that allows customers to see what data they currently do across the exchange once they're joined, or currently goes across the public internet that they could move on to an exchange, and they can see what partners they actually interact with. You might think it obvious, but a lot of customers are actually surprised by seeing who they're actually connecting to in the world and where in the world and what that data is doing. But I suppose one of the key benefits is that because it's a private internet, it's not externally DDoSable. It can't be attacked from a denial of service perspective externally to that network.
Yeah, that leads us to an important topic, which cybersecurity overall. But I wanted to pick up. So obviously you mentioned latency. A huge benefit then of reducing latency. I imagine it's related heavily to kind of player experience, user experience, kind of for the end user. Is that accurate?
Yeah, even if not for the I mean, a lot of the interactions aren't necessarily seen by the end user, but sure. I mean, if a B2C is actually using a B2B partner in the background, whether that's for odds feeds or any of the other back end processes, the ability for those different kind of iGaming connections to be on net and reduce latencies is a real benefit, and just helps ensure that they're not going to go via the unpredictable internet, should we say?
Yeah, absolutely. The kind of creation of a private network reminds me a little bit of I don't know if you've seen Silicon Valley, where they tried to make their own internet, but obviously that's not quite real life. This is very much relevant for B2B gambling. And you mentioned cybersecurity and DDoS. I feel like that's a bit of for such a small word, it's a tongue twister, right? But my question to you, looking at the industry sort of quite generally, gaming and B2B, to paint a picture, how much are kind of gambling companies at risk of losing, let's say, when it comes to cybersecurity attacks and DDoS, and how big of a kind of threat and issue is it?
Well, it's difficult to put a price on the direct and indirect, but it's actually relatively easy for a predominantly online business to calculate what their direct cost would be. A DDoS attack, from the moment it starts to the moment it ends, is going to prevent you from collecting that revenue. So if you're a $1.5 billion a year kind of revenue online business, that's $170,000 an hour it's costing you whilst you're offline. During the big events like the World Cup, Super Bowl, it can be double, triple, even bigger. We actually had a customer in back end of last year that were under attack for 22 hours, quite a sustained attack. But based upon their annual revenue, that would have been $3.7 to $3.8 million that would have cost them being offline if they weren't. But there are indirect costs as well. So it can be attritional. So, I know a lot of customers will have multiple gaming accounts. When unavailable, customers may move, and it can do you some reputational damage to once you've been seen as unreliable, that they might not come back to you. But it's also quite a distraction of key resources. So, your infrastructure teams or your network teams or the people that try to keep your games running will be distracted when there's a DDoS attack or any cyber related incident, away from the business of what they should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think you've put quite a sort of tangible, you say it's difficult to put a price on it, and there's indirect, but that's quite a tangible picture there. I mean, even just the figures you mentioned. When it comes to the gaming exchange, obviously the aim is to, we talked about reducing latency, but when it comes to improving security, and this product is, would you say essential when it comes to kind of these DDoS attacks and cybersecurity issues?
I think it's part of a larger push to try and reduce risk and reduce surface area of attack, right? So a private internet in effect, or a gaming exchange, it gives you a lower surface area to be attacked. It means that even if you are under attack at the public end, some systems can stay up and interact with other customers. It might not be, so even if you're under attack on your internet connection, you can still maintain some of those other interfaces with your other partners, which might keep some parts of your business up for those customers that are connected to them. So, lots of iGaming businesses run lots of different types of environments for their customers. Whether it's a casino, slots, sportsbook. So it just limits that amount of damage and capability to attack.
Mm-hmm. So to just put you on the spot a little bit. If you were talking to a company that had absolutely no cybersecurity protections in place, to be honest, a company like this may not exist in today's day and age, but let's say they do, and you had sort of a 30-second to a minute pitch to them to say, look, you have to sort this out. What exactly would you say to them? What would be the things you said first, the biggest priorities to kind of highlight?
No worries. Well, I'm not the best salesman in our company by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, for the online guys, it's a lot easier. Their online revenues are all via their website, all via their apps or their interfaces. So whether you're a B2B or a B2C, you need to be connected and up to generate revenue. Being protected from DDoS attacks kind of prevents you from, immediate and ongoing losses due to that, lack of connectivity, lack of your open door, your front door being available. But beyond that, DDoS is often a distraction used whilst an exploit is being attempted or a data extraction is being attempted. It's good to hide a huge transfer of data under a DDoS attack. So there's a lot of cybercrime and extortion capabilities. So you do need other security services. I'm not by any stretch saying that the gaming exchange and DDoS are the only ones, but every customer should be looking to add security to their offering to protect themselves. And those security services, without using too many acronyms, would be things like a WAP, so application layer protection as well as network layer protection. Lots of managed services, managed security service products, SOC and SIEM, for example, the endpoint protection. So things that either a team that are looking at your environment, you're looking at your application, seeing if they're under attack, logging systems that can automatically identify changes, malware, and so on, as well as endpoint protection, people's laptops. So not just the enterprise environment, but all the connected parts of that. And then there's some of the risks can actually kind of be multiples of just the downtime, right? So if you are subject to an exploit or some cybercrime, you've got the cost of cyber restoration. So whether that's getting a company in to help you restore from backup or try and remove malware or anything else, there's also the cost of PR and the distraction of the business again, whilst that attack has happened. There's also significant potential regulatory kind of fines. You have to report data loss. Those can come with fines. Sometimes you'll have to do remedial programs for your customers. If their data's been compromised, you might have to offer your customers some kind of, security or data protection service. And then there's potentially, obviously, reputation and customer loss itself. So that's the 30-second, probably took me 2 minutes, but bit just of why you need them. it is very much, unfortunately, it is a risk business. It is saying, look, these are all the risks. This is why you need it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense, and a lot of broad issues you touched on there. At the start of the answer, you made a distinction between kind of online and perhaps people who I'm going to say directly land-based, but yeah, there's online and land-based. There is this distinction in terms of cyber security solutions. How are they different for an online company, purely online, and a company that has maybe some retail offerings? And perhaps, I don't know if you want to look at it from this angle, but what would Continent 8 offer kind of the two different, sides of the industry?
Yeah, so I mean, clearly C8 kind of comes from an online background. So, we run data centers. That's where we came from, running those secure locations to run online businesses. So, land-based is infrastructure that can actually be directly touched or accessed physically or with a local network. So, on a retail premises or in a casino, there's the risk of the actual, the thing the customer is able to touch being exploited, USB keys, local Wi-Fi, those kind of things, and Internet of Thing devices. Whereas online, hopefully the physical is secure because they're in a data center like C8, where you're less prone to that kind of exploit. So that's the distinction. But both need protection effectively. I mean, there was an example in, I think, a Washington Post of an exploit of a North American casino that had been attacked through a fish tank, a connected fish tank.
Amazing.
They'd found a way to move around the local network and then exploit data to, an endpoint in Finland of all places. So, the same security that we look at in the online world is definitely necessary to secure the land-based or the retail base, and make sure it's locked down. There aren't, Internet of Thing devices, and that's where some of those other services I mentioned, like SOC and SIEM services, endpoint protection can be there. And as a gaming person once said, there is a more kind of moral hazard almost. The gaming industry, it doesn't start from a moral high ground, should we say, and essentially is seen as a softer target than companies with a different social standing. So, more prone to hacktivism, or at least, less moral concern of those that would attack you from a cybercrime perspective. Just as important for land-based. And actually a lot of the RNG in the games share the back-end code or even data structures. Same products. You'll see the same slots, for example, online as you do in a casino. So it's just as similar an environment to try and exploit.
From your experience, is there perhaps a perception from land-based companies that because they're land-based and less reliant online, they may need less cybersecurity protection? But as you've just explained, obviously that's not actually the case.
I think so. Yes, I think there is a tendency, in the retail space, there will be a lot of other priorities going on. A lot of casinos will have, entertainment. They'll have Wi-Fi so that you can access their mobile online games as well. So there's more, as I say, there's more physical actual capability to get onto and try to exploit a network. There's more touch points. There's a bigger surface area, in effect, to attack. So yeah, I think stories like that one I mentioned have probably circled through, and casinos obviously have been very heavily regulated and in the past. But I think you're seeing, especially in the US, a lot more focus on security as a part of the regulatory environment and framework for all businesses.
Absolutely. A final topic I wanted to go back to the gaming exchange specifically, and I just wanted to maybe look ahead a little bit, because obviously we're into September now, 2022, and I just wanted to kind of ask what goals and targets have you got for the product specifically, heading into 2023, which of course is going to be on high on the agenda for a lot of companies as we kind of close out 2022.
Yeah, I suppose my goals is to get more of our customers onto it, and then adding some of the requested functionality we've already had. So I mentioned that portal that customers have access to. We've had a lot of feedback from customers about other things they want to see, that they've seen value in that analytical data, that data that tells them, that things that they didn't even know. Some customers have seen some of their enterprise environments are actually, have got a connection out to Twitch, for example, or to Facebook or to LinkedIn, and they're kind of wondering, can you help me understand other areas? So there's more functionality we want to drive into that for our customers. But it's I say get more customers onto it. Customers are busy with revenue generation. There's a massive expansion in the US. use rights and licenses. So it's, you could say arguably are wrong as a secondary priority, but often it's get in, start making money, then look at benefits and cybersecurity and backup and DR and so on. And technological benefits, unfortunately, will sometimes take a bit of a backseat. So pushing it to more, because it's as a concept and as a product and as a service, it builds value the more customers that we've got connected to it. And I think beyond that, we'd like to expand it. So, we've brought all of our existing customers. We have a lot of gaming on our network already, but also maybe into some of the more adjacent industry suppliers and partners. So I'm thinking there of stats providers, for example. These guys are providing in-game statistics to the sports books. Those backends are hosted with us. I think there's potential there for us to look at expanding that private network out to some of those guys, to give them the lowest possible latency, the quickest connection, less chance of being attacked or prevented from a DDoS perspective. And then you could look wider at esports, payments, and fintech channels. So we kind of want to add not just to to what's inside our kind of customer environment, but also maybe stretch out into those kind of adjacent companies to try and bring those advantages to those interactions as well.
Plenty to aim at there. Best of luck for the rest of the year and for next year. And I suppose, as you mentioned in your story earlier, I guess a concluding message for our readers is perhaps just watch out for your fish tanks. Make sure no one's hacking your system via those.
Yeah, I'm not sure why a fish tank has to be online, but if it is, definitely make sure it's secure, for sure.
Absolutely. But Justin, thanks very much for your time. Viewers can also watch an interview we did earlier this year with Content 8 CEO Michael. But yeah, Justin, thanks for your time, and really appreciate your answers.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.